Dr. Julia Spinello, and welcome to Medical Girl Mystical World, where health is not just about medicine. Today, my guest is Laura Greiner. She's a licensed acupuncturist, a Chinese herbalist, and Taoist stone medicine practitioner. She is also the founder of the Seed to Star Collective, which is a unique community and wellness center in Decatur, Georgia. Thanks for being on my show.
Thanks for having me.
I am very interested in this, and it's been on my list of show ideas since the very beginning that I started the show 2 seasons ago, because I've never had acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
I've had acupressure before when they do massage.
Yes.
But I know now, being an energy healer, that it all is connected, and
Mm-hmm.
this has been going on since our medicine here in the Western world,
Yes.
even was created.
Yes.
So how did you get into this?
That's actually a really interesting story.
Okay.
So I grew up having asthma and severe allergies my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was away at college in my 20s, it was just miserable.
Mm-hmm.
My asthma was horrible. I just was depressed. And I was about to go on a skiing trip with my now husband's family, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to ski because I couldn't breathe well enough to ski. And I was like, I need to go get a book.
Mm-hmm.
Back when there were lots of bookstores. So I went, and there was this random book on the bargain shelf, and it had a pretty cover, and it was called In the House of the Moon, I think it was Reclaiming the Feminine Spirit of Healing or something like that. But it was all pretty, and I was like, oh, looks interesting. And I didn't know anything about any healing stuff. All I knew was from the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I read this book, and it turns out it was by an acupuncturist, and he had all these case studies, and one of them sounded so much like me, like a young woman who had all these breathing problems, and it was just so I was like, what do I have to lose? So
Right.
Then I was in college up in Baltimore, and I didn't know this, but there are a lot of schools up in Baltimore, so there are acupuncturists all over the place. So I just literally picked the closest one to my dorm because I didn't have a car,
Mm-hmm.
and called them up, and it was a practice of 6 practitioners, I think, something like that. And no one returned my call for days. And I was like, what? So then my boyfriend came to visit, and he had a car, and I was like, just drive me over there. I really felt like I needed to make an appointment with this practice
Mm-hmm.
for some reason. And I went, and this woman just happened to open the door, and she was with someone, but took a second to talk to me. And it was just we just connected. And
Mm-hmm.
she was she saw me, and she was like, I can see you're struggling. And she made an appointment for me. And I was, a poor college student. I had no money. And I was like, I have no money. And she was like, don't worry about it. We'll work it out. Just, come back. And from that, I started seeing her weekly, and she just let me pay whatever. And the changes in my life were just insane.
Mm-hmm.
Not just physical, obviously my breathing got better.
Mm-hmm.
I was sleeping better. All sorts of physical things were better, but also my mood was better. I just was like, wow. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that was my first start. And then I moved away, and I saw other practitioners, and nothing really, it helped, but it didn't click the way it did with her. And that's how I got into learning that there were different types of acupuncture.
Okay.
And
How many different types are there?
there are a lot. There are a lot.
Okay.
There's different styles. The kind I practice now, it's called 5-element acupuncture. Which we can talk more about, but it's more. It's just a different way of looking at things and approaching how you choose points, and
Mm-hmm.
it's more based on nature.
Okay.
Which is
So the 5 elements of nature?
Yes.
That's what it's based on?
Yes.
So give me kind of a brief synopsis of each.
So it's set no one knows exactly how old acupuncture is, and then exactly
Mm-hmm.
there's no hey, it started back with this guy, and and there's lots of different cultures that we've seen use meridians and needles, all sorts. So, but the 5 elements, it's all based on observations in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 elements are actually wood, fire, water, metal, and earth.
Okay.
And so they each have a season. They're actually 5 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
late summer being the 5th one. And they have all these correspondences, different meridians go with different elements, and it's a whole different way of looking at things instead of more, it's not as symptomatic. It's not like, oh, your head hurts, okay, these points are great for headache, duke. And that can, I'm not knocking anything, like that can definitely be wonderful.
Right.
But it's more, at its core, the theory is that everyone resonates most with one of the elements. And so and sometimes it can be really hard to figure out what someone's...
Is there any correlation of the different elements that like are astrological sign?
That's a good, but lots of people ask that. I've occasionally seen correlations, but not as much. Like, I am actually a fire element and I am a Leo, so that corresponds, but not always. Like, but the whole thing is that at our core, like, we resonate with one more than the other. So it's more treating from that. Like, maybe you're more an earth sign, an earth, as we say, causative factor. But so instead of just focusing on symptomatic stuff, I'll actually work on like nourishing you from at your core. Like, and the whole thing is like, it's more there's this old adage of treat the roots and not the branches. Like,
right.
Like,
get to the root of the problem.
And so I found combining all this works really well, because sometimes people do need immediate relief. Like, you're in pain or you can't breathe or something, like you really need to do these points that are very much like on a physical level, but also like combining that with working with like, hey, we're going to really work on you. Like, because obviously something's going on to create these imbalances out in the branches.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So people that have like a chronic disorder, such as asthma, when you really start working with them and look at the root, do their symptoms substantially subside and then they come in for like tune-ups, or kind of describe the process for me?
Chinese medicine is meant to be preventative. Like, we do things backwards here. We wait in the Western world. Like, we wait until, like, I get so many people who, they're like, I tried this and I tried this and I tried this and I've had this problem for 10 years and I guess now I'll try acupuncture, and they want like immediate relief. But it's meant, yes, that's the goal, is to come, like, the ultimate goal would be to come in for 5 seasonal tune-ups a year at the change of the seasons. And that just...
Now, pause on that. So do like our circadian rhythms and that kind of stuff, does that change with these 5 elements?
Yes.
Do all of us go through those changes?
Yes. Like, we all have all 5 elements in us. Okay. We all experience the seasons. We all, we have all the points, all the... So, but it's more like, we're all unique. So,
right.
We all resonate more with one.
Okay.
But yes, so, and since it's so much based on nature, and especially these seasonal shifts, that's why it's great to come in for these tune-ups at that time, because it's like we're moving into the next element, the next season. So, like, let's just give your body a little, like, I do call them tune-ups. So, like, when people come to me more with chronic or acute issues, it's really good in the beginning to come come regularly, like, really, like, sometimes it is a very quick fix. I've had that happen, but if you've been suffering for something for years and years, it's rare that it's going to be like, I'll do these 5 points and your chronic Crohn's disease is all gone. Like that. But working, like, I like to see people like pretty close together and then start spreading it out. Like, I don't, as much as I love obviously working and seeing people, I don't want to see you like every week. That means you're neat. Like, I want to get to where you are living your best life and feeling great, and you come in for these tune-ups. So
right.
So yeah.
What is the most interesting case that you've worked on?
I've had a lot of really interesting, I'm really fascinated with more the emotional, spiritual side of things. But I had this woman when I was actually in acupuncture school, because we have a year of clinic where we have to treat in the school clinic with supervisors. And this woman came in and she had been hit by a car, like, walking down the streets, and like it had shattered her leg and all sorts of things. And she was still having all this leg pain. And like the doctors kept saying, you're fine. Like, all your scans are fine. Like, physically everything is fine. Like, and just, she was still in so much pain. And so I did this protocol that, I get a little crazy. Anyway,
it's okay.
The Chinese terms are
we do crazy here.
the like it's called a possession treatment, but it
Okay.
doesn't mean like you're possessed by like like we think, oh my God, exorcist, whatever.
It's just a name to the thing.
But
that
it's
you
like
do,
any kind of trauma, anything
right.
like we hold it. So she had literally, this was such a traumatic event. Like she had not been able to
process it,
and it was still held in her leg. And so like I did this treatment that, I didn't put any needles anywhere near her scars or where the pain was, and it it just helped release that stuckness and that trauma that had been.
Now, as she's going through that, is she very emotional and working through that?
She cried through the whole time. Because typically the needles are in anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes during a session. So, but after that, like her pain, I mean, she still had a little pain, but it was substantially better.
Yeah.
Just from, and that's like, that's something that's really at the core of 5-element medicine too. It's like, yeah, we could treat these symptomatic pains all day long, but there was something else going on that she just really needed to release.
Yeah, because I put acupuncture in the same field as energy work because it is.
It is. I mean, you can't really see the meridians. It's not like it is. It's these invisible channels. So yeah, it is energy. But there's like over 400 points, and then there's extra points. There's so many points all over the body, and they all have different physical functions and emotional functions, and like
Now, you at the Seed to Star Collective, you do a lot of work with moms.
Yes.
Is that women that are becoming mothers, or women that do have children at different ages?
Everything. I do have my like passion is the postpartum period.
Okay.
But definitely the whole spectrum, like whether you're thinking of becoming a mom or getting pregnant, while you're pregnant, even if you have, kids who are 30 years old,
Yeah. What got you interested in working with moms?
Mainly because I am a mom. I have 2 kids. But after the birth of my second child, who's now 6, I had a really traumatic birth with her and suffered horrible postpartum depression for a while. And that just really, it changed me. And I realized really how hard that period of time is, and how even though I had friends and all these online communities, there just wasn't enough support. And especially the kind of acupuncture I do is so nourishing for the heart and for just everything that was and it helped me so much. I was I really just felt called, I need to help. I'm just it's my passion. And so I did start these weekly moms groups because also childcare, that's just, I had so many people who would be oh yes, I know I need to come see you, but I can't afford that and childcare or leave my baby. It just, so I started these low cost acupuncture for moms groups where you can always bring your baby anyway. But you can bring your baby, or I provide childcare for older kids.
That's wonderful.
And it's only $30, and you come and you're also in a community with other moms, whether it's a mom with a 15-year-old and a baby or anything. Just also just getting out of the house in that time after you have a kid is so hard. So it's, I have so many ideas of other ways to help women and new moms, but it's a tough time. Even if you have the best birth and you have the easiest baby and a supportive partner and everything, it's still a lot. So our bodies physically and emotionally go through so much in birth that I don't think we talk about enough. So and then you add in a traumatic birth on top of that, or a baby that won't stop crying, and you're just
Do you recommend acupuncture for women before delivery?
Yes.
Okay.
Acupuncture is great throughout the whole pregnancy, before, during, after, because not only can it help with physical ailments nausea and bloat, the edema, everything, it also just can help you feel more relaxed, because so many of us are so anxious being pregnant. So yeah, it's great. It's great support throughout the pregnancy.
That's great. Does it help with weight loss too?
It can't, I mean, so the whole theory is that, like, once things start getting back into balance, that, our bodies start working more the way they should. So,
Right.
so for me, I haven't found any magical, like, I can do this and you'll lose weight, but,
Right.
but really, like, working with at the root of what's going on, because everyone has their own, there's no, like, you're overweight, all of you are overweight for the same reason. Like, and so many times it's emotional, or maybe it's something with your digestion, who knows? So
Right.
it's so much looking at each person and what's going on, and going from there.
What are the typical complaints that people come in for mostly?
Mostly, I mean, I think when most people think of acupuncture, they think of for pain, which it is great for pain. So I do get a lot of people who are just like, oh, I have chronic back pain or finger pain or whatever kind of pain, but also lots of digestive stuff. Definitely, I seem to attract people with breathing issues, which is, insomnia, any kind of sleep disturbances are great. A lot of times people will say to me like, oh, well, I don't have any problems, so I would never need to come see you, And it's that whole, like, well, even if you don't feel like you have, like, any issues or problems, like, the whole, like, the maintenance part of it, like, just like I tell people we maintain our cars. You don't only take your car to get an oil changed when it's out of oil and the engine's screwed up. Like,
Right.
you maintain it. So if we all just maintained ourselves a little more, we wouldn't then, like, completely collapse and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So now we are going to look at the finer points, pun intended, of the meridians. And I am going to get my first acupuncture treatment.
Yeah.
Never done before. So,
all right.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I brought with me my trusty sidekick. Her name is AcuGal. If you're on Instagram, it's she's at Adventures with AcuGal.
I love it. She's got her own Instagram account.
Yeah, so you can follow her. She'll be chatting about today and just everything. But she has got, there are lines all on her showing the meridians and the hundreds of points. But meridians are basically invisible channels of energy that run through our bodies. And there are 12 main ones that are bilateral on both sides, and then there are two other ones that run down the back and down the center of the body.
Okay.
So basically 14. And then there's all sorts of other crazy things. But there are over 400 points all over the body on these meridians that they all have different functions, different things they do. And so when doing a session, it's thinking about, like, which points are going to resonate more with you and help with what's going on with you. Like, some, like, lung points are really good at tonifying the lungs. It's like someone with breathing problems, I'll always add in one of those points. And often, because the meridians run, like, there are meridians that start on your feet that run all the way up to your head. So it's also possible to treat a certain area of discomfort and not having to stick needles right where the pain is. Like, I'll get people who, like, have shoulder pain and are surprised that I can treat their elbow or their hand or whatever without having to stick needles straight in their shoulder.
And that's what we're going to do for me, because I always have this from all of my surgeries, from my cancer experience.
Yes.
It's still some tightness, even though it's been, 3 years, but it's just it's a chronic thing. So that's the thing we're going to work on today.
Yes.
Yay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to feel your pulses right now, but there is, if you've ever gone to an acupuncturist and they check in by feeling your pulses before and after or during a treatment, this is another common question I get asked, is because everyone thinks you're just feeling your heart rate. But really, there are 12 pulses on your wrist, 6 on each hand, that correspond to those 12 main meridians I was talking about.
Oh,
so it's another way, like, because I'm getting, like, I get with whatever someone is telling me, what I'm observing, but it's another piece of the puzzle, I like to say. Like, I can check in and see, like, what meridians have maybe too much energy, what have not enough, like, there's different qualities. Also, they all flow in a circuit, so you can tell if there's, like, a block between two, which it's amazing when there's just a block and you unblock it, how many things start feeling better.
Yeah.
So if you're ever at an acupuncturist and they're feeling your pulses, they're actually checking a lot more than your pulse, your heart rate.
That's
so
very cool. I never knew that.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting.
So should we get started?
Sure.
Okay.
So I just brought a few little needles here to show you.
And these are so tiny. She was showing me before the show. I'm not scared of needles anyway. I've been stuck so many times, so it doesn't bother me.
They are so thin. Like, they're thin as a few hairs. You can bend them. They come in lots of different gauges, so some are thicker than others.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go on the thinner side just because I don't feel like things have to hurt to work. So first I'm going to take an alcohol swab and just swab a few areas where I'm going to be sticking the needle. And as you can see, the needles all come in these prepackaged, totally sterile packages. Needles now are not reused. Years ago, they used to be reused, and you had to sterilize them in an autoclave. And now, it's required you use disposable needles. And sometimes I use what's called a guide tube. This is this little plastic tube you see around it, which basically I stick the tube there, and then I just tap the needle in. And there you go.
I'm a porcupine.
Yeah. And often
it doesn't hurt at all.
And often, a lot of times you don't feel the needles at all going in. Sometimes if you do, some people describe it as like a mosquito bite, almost like that little, it's uncomfortable for a second, or maybe sometimes it might feel a little more, I like to say, zingy, especially if it's an area where energy or anything is stuck and you're putting a needle in to move it, you're going to feel it more. Also, different parts of the body, you feel more like if I was going to do your finger or your nose, like you feel that more than here.
Yeah.
But, and in general, when the needles are in, they're not felt.
And they don't go very deep, do they?
And they don't go deep. There are some areas of the body that you would go deeper, like if you're working on the belly or your thighs, like where there's more flesh. But for the most part, they do not.
So how long
very deeper up.
Okay, so how long do these stay in?
And you can rest your arm now.
That's actually a little tender. I mean, it's not hurting. I mean, I'm not a wimp by any means. But
surprisingly, that specifically goes straight up to where all your tension is, which is interesting. So I know, it's crazy. It is. So typically, like if someone came for a private session, what I do is I'll put the needles in and let you rest for 30 or so minutes. Most people fall asleep, actually, which is great. Sometimes I'll do some points where I just stick it in and take it straight out. And that's just if I'm really trying to get this, like, hey, we really need to, give you a boost. But it's said that it takes something like 22 and a half minutes for the chi, which is the energy that flows through the meridians, to go through to make the circuit. So that's about why most people do about 20 minutes or so. I found it's also individual. But if someone's coming and laying down and I'm putting needles in and turning off the lights and you're going to drift into a nice little nap, I'll do 40 minutes or so. And,
so how many needles do you put in?
It depends. I'm not of the mindset that more is always better. There's this whole thought, really in the perfect world, it'd be one perfect needle and I'd be able to fix everything. But,
the golden needle.
That would be great.
Yeah.
It depends. Often I maybe 10 or so per session. There are a couple protocols where I use more. Sometimes I'll use less. It's hard to say because, it's just so individual.
So you have things that you put on the ear as well?
Yes.
What are those?
So the ear actually has hundreds of points on it as well that correspond to all parts of the body. So there are holes, there are some practitioners that only treat do auricular acupuncture, which is just the ears. And when I started doing group acupuncture, I used to only do the ears because it's just simple and you can always access someone's ears. But there are these little things called ear seeds, and they're basically just stickers. These are you can see it's just like medical tape with a ball that you can put on some of the points on the ears to help activate the points, and you can also press on them and do acupressure if you're needing extra support. I used to only have these really boring medical tape ones until I discovered these.
Blinged out.
So this is like, I think the most popular thing I've been doing now is everyone's like, can you please give me some of those ear stickers? So, and they just have a little gold ball on the back. And so basically you can put these on any of the points on the ears.
And they go out to dinner.
Yes, these are so, instead of people thinking you have a Band-Aid on your ear, they're like, oh, you got your ears pierced. But I often put them on a point that, it's called Shen Men, and it's a point that corresponds to the heart, and I like to say it's like taking a deep breath. It's just like a very calming point. And so putting a sticker there just can help with more of a sense of calm. And then you can also press it if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose it. You can press the point and it'll help.
How long did those stay on you?
So these, they stay on at least a week. I've had people say they stay on even longer.
Wow.
Because they're got really good adhesive. But if they bother you, just take them off. It's not a big deal. Or just, I like to say if it's over like 3 weeks or so, I would take it off just because, give that point a rest.
Right.
Ear a rest.
It's done its job.
Yeah. So.
But it's still fashionable.
It is. So, and these are also great for kids because kids are sometimes not open to needles. And so just an extra way, just like some extra support. So,
that's great.
So if you'd like, I can put a couple on your ears.
Why not?
Yeah. All right.
Do I need to take these earrings out?
Nope.
So what happens because you have people that have multiple piercings and get the ones with the big holes in their ear. How does that affect our meridians here?
Well, there are all sorts of thoughts on that, like especially like getting tongue piercings or any kind of piercings on your body. And again, I like say it's individual. Like if you get a piercing or something and you start to maybe not feel so great, like pay attention to that. Like, but sometimes there's nothing like there is an old thought that the reason sailors used to pierce their ears is because some of the points down here have to do with eyesight. And so they would pierce their ears so they could see better on the
Wow, I thought you were going to say it was for seasickness.
Oh, no. There's a point for that too.
Maybe too.
But yeah, so I mean that's more individual, you know. But yeah, so like if you go get your tongue pierced and then you're like, oh my gosh, ever since then my digestion's screwed up and I'm depressed, maybe think about that.
Think about that, you guys.
Like it's so much. We give too much power. This is could be a whole nother episode. We give too much power to practitioners sometimes. Like we have the ability to heal ourselves, I really think. And like, if we just like tuned in more to ourselves and said, oh, this started when I did that, then maybe, like we really need to check in more with what we're experiencing, because everyone in the world you can go see everyone, all these great healers, but
but we are the best assessor of what's going on with us.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's my little spiel. But anyway, so I'm just going to put this tiny little sticker.
Okay. Oh, look. I'm getting some bling.
Right there.
Do you want to see it? Can you see it, Jesse? Okay. Oh, my God. I'm all blinged out now.
Yeah. So these are...
It's actually starting to feel... Did you hear that pop? Like... Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's not as scary.
It is not as scary. This is great.
They hear needles and it's terrifying, but these are not the needles we're all used to.
Right. Well, Laura, thanks so much for coming on the show. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, my wellness center is called the Seed to Star Collective. It's in Decatur. So the website is seedtostar.com. And all the information is there. I'm working on my own private website that's been taking forever. But we're also on Instagram at Seed to Star. Actually, no, it's at Seed to Star Collective. And on Facebook. Not Twitter, but Yeah.
And do you have an Instagram for your acupuncture?
Oh,
work?
yes. Also, that's Laura Greiner Acupuncture, all one word. And then Adventures with AcuGal has hers too. So, and I will answer all those. Like, I manage all those. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
It was fun.
It's great.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, guys, until next time. Thanks.